Okay.
So, I mean, I went to a meeting in Louisville that pastor spoke at, and I think that's the first time I introduced myself. Again, we never had any formal conversations. The focus then was on R.G. Stair.
Okay.
Because he was the man leading all this up, and everybody else was support.
Okay.
And, I never, the only time I really talked to Pastor Dow personally was when I came here for my working visits, because even then they would, check people out, make sure the spirit was right for this.
Okay.
But, and then things evolved, and again, he asked me to come down here, and that's why I'm here today.
So you had your Berean Moment. You felt called to come down. You said you felt called to come to be a part of Straitway because you got to visit. Pastor Dow invited you.
Yeah, and I didn't know it at the time, but I was using these other people that from Minnesota to actually lead me this way, because I think I did it on my testimony in the 17 years video I did, but R.G. Stair put it out there. If you really want to become part of a community, and even though I understood the cost back then, what it was, my family and everything else, I knew it was right, because it just was. You don't even have, even though I didn't know the word like I do now, it was just, there was something spiritually right about it. You could see the unity and everything. So he said that, I want you to send me everything that you have right now, okay? And I took him for real. I took it at face value. I pulled out my savings, everything that I had, and I was trusting completely by faith that I didn't know which way I was going to go. I didn't know if I was going there or anywhere, if I was going anywhere, but I packaged it up and I sent it to him, right?
Everybody's inquiring, how did Straitway come about? How did we get to this point? And they can tell and sense that it's like something is catching fire. It's growing, because they can see the happiness, they can see the joy, they see the peace that is being obtained. They can see we're very serious about this walk.
And that started, I believe you honored that faith, even though it came through R.G. Stair, and he directed me here.
So then you get here. Where's your wife and your children in this situation? Did they come along with you when you got?
No, actually, they, when I was up and, there, I was seeing everything, and the children having to experience the fighting and the end wars and everything, and we were trying to keep it at a minimal, but still, it happens. So, I pretty much just gave her everything.
Okay.
Right? I wanted my children to stay there in an environment where I knew it was stable, because down here I never lived on a community. I didn't know what really to expect, just on the visits. I knew that right at the beginning, I didn't know if they could get used to the difference in lifestyle. I really didn't. So I left them in a place where they were at least comfortable, where they had that type of security in the back of their mind, even though their father wasn't there. They still had some form of connection with, at least their past, some kind of comfort or hope or whatever you want to call it. But my ex-wife actually did come down here for a visit. I think I was here, my second year I was here, 2002, and she came down here with my children, and she actually was well received. She got to witness my children being baptized. But it never took. I believe that was her one-stop opportunity for, that Yahweh was showing her this is a beautiful thing, and just didn't work out.
Didn't work out. Wow.
Nope.
So you left your family behind and you came, right? Now, can you tell us the story of the time that you dropped your children at school? I mean, was that the...
Yeah, as a matter of fact, there was a lot of incidences where... I would go back periodically back to Minnesota.
Okay.
Right? And I remember one time that I went back there. My son was 6th grade, or sixth grade, something like that. I know he wasn't in junior high yet. And so the day that I had to leave, my ex-wife took me to the airport to drop me off. And we got to school to drop him off. It was later on in the morning, and we walked inside the foyer of the school, going to school. And, I want to I'm trying to keep him strong. I'm trying to keep him encouraged. I'll be back. I'll see you soon. It'll be okay. Everything will work out. And he was so, because my whole visit, they would always, Dad, can you stay longer? Can you come back? We'll do whatever you have to. My ex-wife even tried to make concessions. We'll get your house in northern Minnesota that I want as my dream place, and I'll grow up on a lake and get hunt and fishing the rest of my life, and away from everything. So, all the temptations back then. But, my son, I was trying to, I got to get going, son. I'm really sorry, right? It'll be okay, trying to reassure him. And as I turned away, he just grabbed my leg and would not let me go. And of course, he was crying. And my daughter had already been dropped off at school, but he really, that was very heart-wrenching, very, very difficult to deal with. And my ex-wife witnessed this whole thing, so even more bitterness entered into her, and more. And it was just part of counting the cost. I mean, it's when the Bible says, when Jesus said, that unless a man forsake all that he has, and until you can read the words on the pages, but until you're actually tried with it and have to deal with the situation, because Yah is going to prove your heart to see whether you actually want to follow him completely and wholly or not. And he's going to put the things that you love the most in your path to see how you deal with it. And it definitely was a struggle. And but again, we're a testimony, yourself, me, and many of others that have gone this way, and Yah's brought us this way, that it can be done.
Yep.
In fact, it has to be done. So, and then of course I married Diane in 2003 here, and she went through the same thing, chewed the same dirt, so to speak. She had to leave her 12-year-old son, or 11-year-old, I don't remember what he was, but she had to go through all the cutting the ties and type of thing, and so when Paul says, I suffer the loss of all things, it brings an impact when you actually have to go through it.
So now you had to give up your family, just like all of us had to suffer some form of loss or something to be in this truth. So now you're part of Straitway. Now it's interesting, when I first came into the ministry, or at least was inquiring, your name came up, either Elder Doug or Elder Becker. I didn't know if there's, who, but you're a twin now, so now I know that could be a possibility. I could get two people. But how did you get you were one of the first elder ordained on this land?
The very first, yes.
One of the first ones. So how did you, you've been obviously doing this for a long time, over 15 years at least, or almost 18 years now that you've been doing this stuff. But how did you go from brother to elder? Like how did that all transpire to the point? You have a lot of responsibilities here. Could you please share that, all the stuff that you do for Straitway? Yeah,
absolutely. My whole focus, and I believe it still be today the same, is that I just wanted to help, right? I just wanted to, I believe Yah had groomed me in my life with certain skill sets, and when I got here, it's not that the brethren didn't know, but they were learning certain things that I'd already been over. I would do carpentry. I would volunteer freely on weekends and not even get paid to learn to do carpentry. I went from the bottom. So I was able to bring a lot of these skill sets. I could lay carpeting. I could do a lot of, I fix small engines, repair my own vehicles. I did all that. So when I got here, my focus and drive was just to help, right? That's all I knew. I just wanted to help. My father, that's one principle, that's one soundness that I thank my father for, that he was a very work-oriented man. In fact, they used to call him a workaholic. That was the man, just morning till evening, and he raised us in the same. We worked. We didn't. Y'all get your out of the house. That's what we did. And if we came across a project or anything, like, do it, fix it, make it work, make it happen type. That's the type of individual he was. So I brought all that here, and all I wanted to do was help. That's it. I just wanted to help. I want to be brother down here in the background. Just you tell me what to do, and I will do it. If I can do it, or I'll figure out how to get done. So I got to wear many hats down here, right, and got to move around, and I was thankful. And Of course, we had deacons back then, and we had, brothers, that had been here that knew more about the layout and how things worked. And I mean, even the first years on the community, everybody carries a radio now, just for safety. But it was a special thing to get a radio when you first got here. I mean, you had to be, really thought of something to receive a two-way radio.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really, I get in a radio? Oh, my God. And the fear would come over, I really got to step it up because I got a radio, right? I mean, that must be, somebody's looking at something. But, and I remember Pastor would test me with little projects and put me on stuff to see how I performed. I actually remember many times where I'd infuriate the people I was working with because I just knew how to do it. I wasn't trying to be better than them or show them as something, belittle them. It's just that's what I knew to do, just get it done, I've always had the drive to, when I start something, no matter how difficult it is, I just keep pushing through it till I get it done, even if my veins are popping out of my temple, I'm going to drive till I get it done. So that was my posture through the years here. I just want to be helped. I didn't want looking for any type of authority at all. Believe me, I'm fine being told what to do. There's something a whole lot more peaceful about that, right? And then as time went on, a lot of the old hats, or not even old hats, the formers that used to be here, when they started leaving and going away, I started to get more authority, and I started to get more because I was on the land. My first 5 years I had to work off the land because I had obligations that I had to take care of. But this, I don't know if I told many people this, but just to interject this, that Pastor Dow, even back then, was willing to pay off the child support that I have up until the day that my children, because there was a set amount every month. And he was so willing to pay. He actually came up and offered me. I knew the community couldn't afford it, but he actually was going to make it so I could stay here full time. I said, absolutely, I can't take that burden on the community, And I'm thankful I did that, but as soon as I got off work, we were out there on the job hitting it. So, whatever's required. Look, I was happy just being brother Doug. And there was two brother Dougs here, so it was either Doug Becker or Doug Bell. So, but things just worked out and went in a certain way that I kept getting more authority. I knew the land, I knew the structure, I knew what was acquired, I knew the schedules, I knew everything, right? This was my home, I knew it all. And it was just performance of my duty. I loved to do it. I really enjoyed working. I looked forward to getting up in the morning. I knew what had to be done. I get there, go attack it, do it, and then as time went on, I was becoming more accountable to those, or they were having to become more accountable to me. So I was dealing with people that were lazy and people that, apathetic and, dragging the jobs down, and I would go to them and get them where, I'd never experienced it in my life. I was always there. So even that started to assert myself a little bit more. And then eventually the deacon that was here passed, and that left no structure here. It was just Pastor Dowell and the brothers. Well, then in 2010, that's when I was ordained an elder here.
Wow, that's huge. So you became an elder. You're a jack of all trades. I know. So how did you get the duty of taking all the phone calls?
How did I get?
Because I know that you get a lot of phone. I mean, if anybody don't know, you're the guy that when people call in, they point them to you because
this is the voice.
This is the voice right here. This is the voice in the
yeah.
face. So everybody needs to know on the Berean Moment, this is the guy. But how did you get that duty? And did you guys even? I mean, was there even a lot of people calling like now? I'm assuming it's changed too because you've been here from when it was kind of just small.
Yeah, it has definitely ramped up, and I will touch on that. But how it kind of happened now, in 2008, myself and my wife Diane were involved in a very tragic car accident, right? All right. And it changed, physically what I was able to do. I was limited in a lot of things. It really messed my right leg up badly, mangled it up pretty bad, and a few other things. But so right from there, I was forced to change the way I did things. Even the time to recuperate. We were both in physical therapy for almost a year, having learned to walk, all this stuff again. And so when I finally got back to where I could start doing things, of course, you're dealing with a whole new way of having to adjust routines. You can't, you just can't jump on the roof anymore. You have to use a little bit more sense, or your body hurts too much. You have to change your way you do things. So Pastor, knowing full well that I couldn't keep up with what I used to be able to do, there was just no way. He actually had told the brothers that they needed to start taking more off of me as far as the physical stuff, because my first, I would say 4 or 5 years, I spent a lot of time, even then, recuperating, icing, doing all the stuff, to take care of my physical stuff because of the pain that was involved, right? And nobody likes pain. Yeah. And so there was kind of a separation from my normal activities. When I was out in the forefront and I was the guy getting them instructions, this is what we're doing, this, and this, and this. And even during that time that Pastor Dahl had made a statement that, and everybody knew it, that I was the only one here when he wasn't here that could actually override the duties of the community that day, because I had foresight to be able to see what needed to be done back then. And so as I was more farther removed from having that ability, there had to be something to fill that in, right? Mm-hmm. We had brothers that were coming now with the same skills that I had. We had builders coming. We had people that, could do light mechanic work. Teacher Shane did, when he could, when he wasn't working full time. And so people were starting to make the hedge, and a lot of my daily routines that I was normally part of for the first 10 years, the brethren were eliminating me from, fire schedule, pumping water, everything. And almost today I look at it, they almost went overboard, and I kind of let them, Yeah. And I will tell you this about the human spirit, that if you slow down, the slowdown wants to make you slow down even more until the point you have to fight to get back to where you were before, because the body enjoys, and he said, I don't have to tell you, you understand.
Yeah. If you don't use it, you lose it, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, and then of course, Pastor got on YouTube, right? And Yah told him to get on YouTube, and all the stories. So he got on YouTube and started making the ministry known. Well, it started to grow a little slower, and then just like boom, it just exploded one day, right? So he was overwhelmed. We have a board. If you've been to Straitway, anybody that's been here has seen there's a cork board up there, right? And they have a message center. So when the sisters take the message, they stick them up there. So pastor's messages, they weren't 1 or 2 a day or whatever anymore. They were starting to mount up, and he just couldn't keep up. He had the YouTube stuff to deal with. He had people calling and everything. So he turned that responsibility over to me. And then I also previously, shortly after the wreck, I got the job. I got moved into the sound room and working on the board. I had no previous music or any type of knowledge like that. In fact, you look at that thing, it's like overwhelming with all the knobs and stuff. But now it's just like, But that's pretty much how they come to pass. And of course, as the ministry grows and keeps growing, people keep calling. Yah keeps raising up people here and there, awakening them to the truth, and that's my pretty much. It's slowed down a little bit again, but on the average, on the average, it was about 250 calls a month. Okay, that's on the average, right? And that's what I was dealing with. Wow. And it wasn't only through the phone messages. And then as an elder, and now we have the via social media. So you have YouTube, you have Facebook Messenger. And I'm not a big Facebook fan, but I got on there as a way for people to actually get a hold of me. Okay, so I was getting polos, I was getting Marco Polo videos, I'm getting Facebook, and getting text communications on top of the phone calls. So people know that like on Pastor's board thing there, if there's somebody that specifically wants to talk to Pastor Dowell, unless he really knows he needs to speak to him, they come to my side of the board. And so I will talk to him, kind of vet them first, because a lot of people, these calls are absolutely ridiculous. And, they see Pastor as such a wise man. They're not just calling for spiritual reasons. They're calling for legal counsel. They're calling for economic advice. They're calling for, what to do in a legal, a judicial type of setting. Everything. You have people calling that used to be former military, just want to shoot the breeze. And of course, you do have your doctrinal disputes that people calling just to be contentious. And believe me, we know how to handle them very well too. It's like click. So anyway. So that's how. So because of the accident that you went through, it kind of changed your job description and everything. Now you are one of the. There's only 2 chief elders in the ministry and everything. Yes. How did that happen? Is that just because of the time that you've been here, or how did that? Yeah,
how did they going from elder to chief elder now?
Well, it's a little bit of everything. Of course, all the elders definitely have Torah working knowledge and biblical working knowledge. Otherwise, they couldn't be as judges in the land. That's what an elder does, and it's a very fearful thing. The chief, of course, that's something Pastor placed upon me, but it has to come with tenure, experience, and just having a working knowledge of the Word, so you're able to, be a judge and do what is. And so, obviously, I've been here longer than any of the other elders. I want to say Elder Austin is the second. Well, he's been in the ministry longer than the other elders, but he's not been an elder longer. I honestly lose track of things, but through time, the other elders started coming, and. That's pretty much it. You have to have a level of maturity. These are just things that I'm not saying that's me, but that's what I view that it has to be. Experience, maturity. I've lived with Pastor Dow for 19 and a half years. So I've definitely seen his demonstration on how he does things and how things are to be handled. We've grown together. Seen. If anybody's seen the up and downs of Pastor Dow, it's been me, and vice versa. He's been there with me through my up and downs.
One of the things that's interesting that the ministry that I remember coming in, they're saying that it's offered. It's just you have a black pastor, and that it's only for black people. But you were one of the elders, and you're a chief elder, and so. It's just interesting to just know that you've been here for a long time. I remember the first time when I stayed at your house the second visit. Time. I think it was the second visit, but I remember I came with another brother and stayed at your house.
You did.
And I remember you was telling me that, you was telling me something about you were doing deliverance. We were talking about deliverance, and you was talking about how, even pastor, doing that stuff, how you guys done. I'm like, wow, so you've seen pastor evolve into what he,
absolutely.
We just see him today. But he had to grow into his, just wisdom, knowledge, and everything like that. And so, what's the? Before I go to that question, let me just go back here. Let me reset.
Sure.
You've done this for a long time. How do you explain your longevity? There's so many people, that come into this stuff. They get excited and then they just kind of dwindle away. But you guys, you have gone before us. You guys have done this for a long time. How do you explain the longevity that you have had walking this walk, being a part of this ministry? You have seen, the Great Divide, when they brought up the polygyny thing. You have seen people come and go. You came in with a group, and then now you're the only one left. And so how do you explain the longevity that you have in this walk and in this ministry?
I think the principal thing that I've noticed through the years, and I believe it holds true, is that the people that don't make it are the ones that have never really had a true heart conversion. They've had some type of mental assent, they've had an experience, but they've never had the really true, down-to-earth, born-again heart experience that has actually changed them on the inner man. It's more like the superficial thing. It's funny that, being on a community, there's certain traits that Israelites carry, okay, that there's something that's put into them, that Yah's from the foundation of the earth knew that these people would have this type of character, is that their work ethic. Real, true Israelites, I don't think I can recall off the top of my head, really, anybody that has a really sound, really headstrong work ethic, and they want to get out in the forefront and get it done, have ever fallen away. Is there some that maybe have? Yeah, possibly. But I can tell you without doubt that everybody that's had a crappy work ethic and is lazy in nature have never made it. And so, but yeah, it's a real change in the heart and the really conversion. I think that's where a lot of the longevity comes from. It's learning to be selfless, which is in itself a difficult mountain, simply because we're bred in a society that teaches you to be selfish, right? It's all about you, it's all about me. And in Yah's kingdom, that's absolutely, will never get anybody any place. In fact, it'll get you back out in the world again. So you have to have a selfless nature. You have to be willing to sacrifice to the point where it hurts, and even to the point where you start to question, even start to question Yah. It's like, what's this all going on? What's going on? It's like, how much do I have to give before, it's like relentless sometimes. But he knows what he's doing. Yah knows exactly what he's not going to put on you any more than you can bear. So the minute that you think that you're being overwhelmed, in fact, that you're not. I mean, the pastor's been an example. You know, he does the videos, right? And he tries to tell people, convey to them that he is the hardest working pastor that he's, you know, ever met. If I can, and me as well. But, you know, being with him for 19 and a half years, that's utterly the truth. You can't, I mean, being with the man side by side, and he knows that in order to make this successful, he has to be the example. And otherwise, you know, because men follow men. And so he's never let down, never had a, you know, never detected in him any type of doubt at all. You know, he has recounted years later where he's been challenged with the same ideas, you know, especially in the early years. What's the sense, you know, these bunch of rebellious people, like a Moses moment. I just, you know, I just want to get up and get out of here. I can have peace someplace else instead of serve the Most High. But, you know, the same thoughts that everybody gets challenged with, you know, all things common. And all points were tempted, just like Yeshua, you know, each other. But no, he just knows the grindstone. In fact, I would say that there was a transition, even a greater desire for truth and unity when we came into polygyny. I definitely know the change that, I could see the change that took place in Pastor Dow. You know, he set your face like a flint, like it talks about, you know, in the Word, but he even set it to an even greater standard, meaning that there was nothing going to sway him left to the right. And obviously, Yah was, you know, grooming him for that, and even instilling them in a greater way, because the opposition has been like it's never been. You know, because the more that you put the truth out there in the Word, the more opposition you're going to get. So, yeah, he's never ever stuttered one time, and he never will.
Now, one of the things that I love about this ministry now, I'm assuming you didn't do any, you was never part of a church where you were an elder, or, I mean, this is probably your first experience, but what blows me away, I've been a part of churches, you know, in Christianity, and never seen, you know, I've been fortunate to see judgments, you know, or how you guys do things, you know. I mean, I'm like, wow, these people really take the Bible seriously, but the way you guys handle that stuff with no formal, how did you guys learn to do the things that you guys do when it comes to judgment? I mean, I'm very impressed with that, but where did you learn to do that and do it so well?
Well, like, again, I mean, like anything, you know, oftentimes we almost feel like pilgrims in this, because so much of our ways have been lost, our people's ways, Israelites' ways, and so we're kind of getting back into it. And a lot of stuff that the Bible talks about, like, you know, if you know, your brother sin against you, you know, you go to him first, right? And if he don't hear you, take two more, as Jesus said in Matthew 18. And if that don't work, you bring it before the congregation. And if they ain't going to receive that, publican and sinner, so you hit the road, right? We actually did that. We've actually had to do that in the early days. We saw it was there, and remarkably, I don't know. I'd go and, you know, I'd be in my prayer closet and be, you know, back then it was God. It's like, why am I in the middle of this stuff? I was constantly in the middle of some type of problem. And I can see why now, and I didn't want it. You know, it's like, will you stop already? It's like, my God, if there was an altercation, and Yah puts things in your life to see what you're going to do with them, if you're going to deal right with them or if you're going to avoid them. Because the painful part is actually dealing, you know, making the situation right. So we had that example in Matthew 18 happen several times, and we actually, the outcome was as a congregation, you know. But as we got more into the Torah and started, you know, grasping and taking hold of our forefathers' ways that Yah prescribed for Israel as a people, and we started to ordain elders, and we started to, you know, because we understood the position was as a judge. Obviously, the Bible has concrete answers to things that are cut and dry, but when you were part of a situation that we just dealt with, so you got to sit in and see how it was done, and basically knowing the book, right? And we even get situations that are, you know, they're not new to us, but we've never had to deal with them. So you go in there, and that's why the Bible says there's safety in all to the counselors, because you can hear me. You have all these different people that are these judges, these elders, and these teachers, and the deacons, whoever else is here, the pastors, and they're hearing all the stuff coming in. So you got to, they'll ask a question, then you'll glean from it. You'll ask a question, they'll glean from you. So That's really, is there any type of script or playbook for it? No, there's not. You just go with the flow, so to speak. And then after the meeting's done, you speak amongst yourself as a council. You decide, because it has to be, because that judgment you set is before the Most High. So you're accountable for whatever, and it's a fearful thing. You know, I remember after the last one we just had, I turned to Bryce and said, and people actually want to think they want to be elders in this stuff. They ain't never been to this part about it, and it's a fearful thing. It should leave you shaking in your boots. But yeah,
I just even sitting, just obviously, being a community head and sitting on there, I'm just like, whew, this is like you can feel the presence and the awe, just the seriousness of this stuff. This is souls being in it. So
exactly.
So I was just impressed that you guys take this thing serious. Some people say, "Oh, look at this, they're not." I looked at it as like, wow, they take. One thing I like about this ministry is that if I do anything wrong, I know I'll be judged. At least I'll get my fair shot, to be judged biblically,
Yes,
so I just really appreciate you guys taking your job seriously and holding with reverence. This is not something. It's not like this is something you guys look forward to. This is something that you take serious, and you understand that your judgment is going to be judged and everything. So
it is, and that's the seriousness, and that is the beauty again about this ministry, and it is very serious. I mean, it's life-threatening, if I can use that term, because it is. It's for your eternity. So when I talk to people on the phone, they're coming out of GOCC and they're coming out of IUPK and all the other alphabet soups ones. And the thing they identify is the demonstration of the power and the example that we actually live. They hear about it and they read it, but they can't either perform it themselves or the assemblies that are with now aren't going that way because it's not for this time or it can't be done. But there's a lot of feedback in just, again, the demonstration of what we actually do. You have, some groups out there, they're all Torah. They got nothing that is going to show any demonstration of the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit. And then you got others that claim to have the Holy Spirit, but they got no Torah. So we read the book, we believe it from beginning to end.
Yeah. Let me ask you two more questions. And I think I can say two more questions. So the question, and I'm saying Paul so he can edit it if I'm off. But anyway, one of the questions, what is the thing that makes you proud of or appreciate, let me use that, appreciate about Pastor Dow? I mean, you have seen him in the beginning. Did you ever, so what is it about him that you appreciate about his leadership and what he's done for all these years? You've seen it, from the beginning to now where he is now, or where he continues to go.
Well, I think the first and foremost thing is his unrelentless drive to be right and to be holy and be set apart and to live the book and to be obedient to the Most High as he would have us to be, obedient to him. Pastor, there's no wavering, absolutely none. In fact, when he finds a truth or when he's led into something that was, we'd really like polygyny or something, anything else that we really didn't, and when it's right, he grasps with the whole things and even takes. So his steadfastness, his tenacity, because his pastor's drive is to get home, right? His whole drive is to get to the kingdom and to take as many with him that would hear him. He's never going to ever fail in his position or his ministration. You can obviously see that. He's been tested so many times over the years, from within and without, but no leaning anyway. He's solid. And when people come that, they see that there's no shaking, there's no shadow of turning. It's just straightforward. We're going home.
So when you look back, and just offer this question, when you look at it, did you ever think the ministry would be where it is today? From where you came in and inserted and where it is today, did you ever imagine or see this happening? Honestly,
I didn't think about it too much. It was spoken that we actually had an elder man here that had passed, and he had actually been given an awareness, or I don't want to say prophecy, but he was given something in the spirit about that. He had seen in a vision, dream, I don't remember exactly, but you may have heard that it was cars lined up and down, right? And so, you can hear it, but you have to see it come to pass. I don't want to be doubting Thomas, but you understand, but it has come to pass. And could I imagine it? No. I never thought it would be this, I don't want to say overwhelming, but this, it's in your face type of thing. The last Passover was what? The unleavened bread was 50 people. Yeah, our Sabbath service here back in the early days was the people at the community, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 people from without would come here. And service would be an hour and a half like it is now, sometimes longer. We'd go down, we'd have a cold meal. We'd have sandwiches and chips, just the cold stuff. And then that was it. Y'all went home. You just slept. We went home, we went in our beds. If it was summer, we went down to the creek and sat in our lawn chairs. And that was it, And today, it's the dynamics of the whole thing has changed. Could I imagine? No, there's no way. There was absolutely no way. I mean, you can't even read about that, I mean, it's not there.
So, last thing, and if you can help us now, everybody's watching. The people that's watching the show. What would you say to them? You guys have paved the way. Pastor Dow has obviously credited people like yourself, all the people that were there in the early stage. They're holding his hand up, encouraging him as he kept on leading the way and doing what Yah was directing him to do. What would you tell the next generation? If you could speak to the next generation that's coming behind you, what would you like them to know about this journey that you guys have, the course that you guys have set, and what would you tell the next generation if you had to tell them?
I mean, that can be a pretty broad statement. I would
Whatever
say,
you want to share, yeah.
I would say that the thing that comes to my mind first and foremost is never get the example and the drive that has been left for you and is at present right now, because the days are going to get more serious, more dark, more evil, and it's going to take what you see now and what you've experienced now, and it's going to have to even go to a greater level. I mean, how do you really instill that in somebody that they need to do that, right? That's necessary. That it's a must. It's not a probability. It's a must. I mean, you must go this way. You must be more determined, more stronger, have a greater love for Yah than the people that came before you. And if you can keep and hold that greater love of Yah than we have, as we've tried to demonstrate by our example and the way that we've lived and demonstrated the book, I think you'll get there. I think that I absolutely believe that people that, like Pastor said, give me one person out there that's going to do more than I did. All right, and that's a tall order. Okay, that's a huge tall. Can it be done? Absolutely, but you have to have the made-up determination to do it. How you instill somebody into that, I don't know, but it's paramount that you get set apart and get a relationship with Yah. It's just a greater love for Yah. That's really all I can sum that up with.
That's deep. Well, thank you so much for doing the Berean Moment, Elder Becker.
Oh, it's my privilege. Thank you for having me, Brother Kabir. Hallelujah.